All right. I love that today I was not surprised by the countdown. I am here with my good friend, James McLanahan, who, by the way, was, well, two things. One, you were the very first person on the Any Given Day training team. In fact, you hit me up and got on the team before I had a team. So you were kind of part of the, I think, inspiration behind getting me across the finish line. And then two, this is the worst thing to admit. But when I was writing your name down yesterday, I realized that it's not Mick C, it's Mick capital L.
It is. And that's a tough one. People are addicted to that extra C. I think people gotta,
They need it. I like it. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. So I gotta go like soft on the C and then go strong on the L.
Yeah, gotta go hard on the L.
We'll get it right. So we were chatting before this started and basically talking about how both of us are talkers. And so we got to be careful not to step on each other. But I will say I did episode 1 with my friend Jason Clark, and that man was like born talking. And I was sure we'd have the same issue, and we didn't. I was decent at relenting and giving the actual guest the spotlight as I should. I was joking with my brother this morning, and he was basically saying, hey, dude, I hope you're figuring out how to shut the fuck up so that your guest can be the guest they are. So anyway, that said, man, I'm going to kind of pass this mic to you, I guess, as quick as I can. If you want to chat a little bit about, we don't do bios here. People can read the show notes, but if you want to chat a little bit just about like your journey in service, even just randomly throw out sort of where it started, where it landed, etc.
Yeah. It's so funny. I think that with that, so many guys, if you talk to them, it's like, dude, you were always going to end up here, You were always going to end up here. But for me, dude, I got in trouble as a kid, plenty. And by the time I was 17, I had dropped out. I was like working full time, and I had already been bugging the recruiter so much they wouldn't talk to me because they're like, you cannot join yet. But at 17, I could, as long as I had my mom's sign. So the Navy recruiter was like, you've been in so much trouble, we're not going to be able to take you. And I was like, man. So Navy SEAL was out. The Marine recruiter was like, maybe we can get you in. We only get a few of these contracts where we can take idiots like you. We'll call you when that happens, but just so you know, you're going to leave whenever we tell you to leave, and you're going to take whatever job we tell you to get. But the good news is, we can maybe eventually get you. And Army recruiter could have maybe done it, like if I probably would have talked to him some more, but they were so good. Like they were so good at making mission that if you're like a hard case for them, like why would I do extra paperwork? And the National Guard recruiter though was like, yeah, hey, what's up, dude? So you're an idiot.
But you're just our type of idiot.
Yeah, but you're just our type. So they're like, dude, I understand you want to do all this really cool stuff. If you join and do our stuff, and we'll treat you basically after you get this basic training graduation, the rest of the services will treat you like you're not a screw up, because you'll have passed a basic training, prove that you weren't a screw up, and everything is going to be good, basically. By the time I got back, they were like, no, actually now you also need 18 college credits. The Army recruiter, this is the best part, is the Army recruiter, by the time I got the credits and came back, he was like, I never thought I was going to see you again. And you did it. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, so what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to be an airborne ranger. And he's like, probably not going to happen. We don't have any contracts for that right now.
They never do they?
Yeah. He goes, but, you can be a Green Beret. And I was like, I thought you had to like do some stuff first. He's like, nah, we got a new thing. It's like right off the street. And I was like, all right. Actually go to sign up. They had none of that. And I was like, that's okay. I'll just volunteer at basic training. And they're like, yeah. That
rolling
won't
the
happen.
Dice right there.
Yeah, I just didn't care. I just figured eventually I'd end up somewhere cool if I worked hard. And the volunteer basic training thing worked. So volunteered, and then found out that the hardest day is not some day that you have in training. The hardest day is every day after that. And I swear it just keeps getting harder. And that was when I was like really disappointed when I showed up and found out that the hard part wasn't over.
Yeah. There's no you made it. It's
Yeah.
every day you're kind of proving yourself. Well, you also kept, like you mentioned volunteering, like you kept volunteering,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that's a big part of it is like you continue to step up, you continue to raise your hand, you continue to do the work. And I think people don't realize like that part of it, just how many times you can opt out.
Yeah. And they make it attractive to opt out.
Very.
They make it attractive to
Burgers by the
opt out.
campfire attractive.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And you're like, that's another thing that I wasn't ready for. I didn't know that that was going to happen. Was it wasn't like you just have to keep going and not quit. No, they're going to make quitting the best thing ever. In fact, everybody that quits gets treated like a freaking, this honorable, like you did the right thing. These other people are idiots and liars, and you're like, so they make it look, it looks real good to quit. And I think that the truth is, though, is if you end up in a bad spot, it's going to look real good to quit too,
Yeah.
and real
Yeah.
easy to just give up. And so that's the, you know,
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. When I went back in, I had to go back through what was no longer RIP, but RASP. And so when I went back into RASP, so it's E5, tab, combat scroll, CIB, and class leader. And they would come on the microphone at nighttime, right? Be like, everyone's about to go to sleep. And they're like, hey, good evening, everybody. Just so you know, tomorrow, today was tough, but tomorrow's going to be a little bit tougher. And, this isn't for everybody. And we recognize that. That's no big deal. And like you said, they make it seem like the honorable thing. They're like, if you want to opt out, you just go ahead and line up outside of your class leader's room and he'll escort you downstairs and we'll get you all set up for your next assignment, right? Like just super cool, casual, almost like they were down there just taking bets. And I'm laughing. I'm laying in my bunk and I'm laughing. I'm like, who's going to quit right now? We're literally like laying in our bunks with the little bit of free time we had in the day. I step outside of my room and there's a line 10, 12 deep. And this isn't like day one either. This is like probably 2 weeks into what's maybe a month long. Like,
yeah.
but man, yeah, they made it attractive enough. And I was like, okay, guys, I guess and some of those dudes were great dudes.
Yeah, that was the thing that shocked me was guys I wouldn't have pegged to do that. Guys that were really hardworking guys, really strong guys.
But I also rather find those guys then, right? Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
part of me is like, man, do I convince this guy to stay because like he's strong, he's solid, he's a good dude? Or is it like, no, this is telling. And do I want the guy that, I want him to quit here in this atmosphere where there's no real consequences to me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Versus when he gets to the unit, make those same mistakes.
And less consequences for him too.
Absolutely.
Like really, like less Yeah, so that it's actually a great system. It's just, you got to pay.
Yep. Yeah.
You got to pay.
Yeah. I think it strains out most of what it needs to strain out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, if you slip through the cracks, like you said, though, that's just the beginning. And so a lot of those guys, like, yeah, you can slip through the cracks in the selection process. But when you have to wake up every day and perform, that's when we're going to find you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the beauty about working somewhere where you've got to earn it every day and everybody wants to be there. And to me, that's the thing. That was the hardest thing to find and still is the hardest thing to find afterwards is how do I find those people in everyday life? And
Still looking for that team.
yeah, yeah, hard to do.
Dude, so you just like, it's funny because I already have I have a lot of questions because even though we were in the same areas during our time in service, we didn't really cross paths until I was coaching years later at First Group. And so I actually have a million questions about your time in service. But that said, that's not the main point of this talk. And you already just took us in the perfect direction of kind of life after service. And so you already mentioned one of the hardest things to find, which is where do you find your people? Where do you find the people to surround yourself with who wake up every day with the same attitude, the same attack mindset that you have? Where have you looked for that anyway since you got out?
That has been a really like, so that's been like a really challenging thing because what I used to do is like treat everybody like they were basically some guy in RIP or some guy in RASP until they proved themselves. But you really can't do that because you just, at the end of the day, you not only will you not have any friends, you won't have any partners in business, you won't have any like anything. And so instead, what I've tried to do is really give everybody the benefit of the doubt in the, kind of the best way possible, but knowing that, this is a untested, relationship and that you're liable to get burned. And, you know, so I would say that like the time in group probably helped out with that because we partner with somewhat questionable allies
Yep.
regularly.
Yeah. No
And so
doubt.
I think that it's like, okay, well, we'll start off slow, right? Start stuff off slow and find out. But like, as far as where do I go, the people that I've met that are like hard chargers at work and have something else, some hobby that they like pour their heart into at home or elsewhere. Or if maybe it's not that, maybe their thing they do is they volunteer with a charitable organization or something like that in their spare time. But the people that, leave it all out on the field, like just, and then still go home, find something else, some other way to put it together and do something else and just continue. And those are the folks that I don't just like try to, surround myself with. I try to emulate. One of the guys that I'm actually next month, I'm going snowboarding with him he's actually, I mean, he's my mom's age. And when we get on like steep stuff, I can barely keep up with him. But this dude, and I met him, he's married to a friend of my wife's, and we had to hang out. At first we just like really didn't like that we had to hang out with each other. And then we found out that we had a bunch of stuff in common and now we hang out more than they do. But that dude, I mean, like no matter what he was doing in business, when he was an attorney or he was like a sports agent, that dude always had some hardcore hobby where he was doing triathlons or full contact karate or other stuff like that. And he works out every single day, even on travel days. So if he's flying across the country or to Europe, he still works out. And which I don't even do. Like I can't keep up with his programs. It's those kind of guys. And I've been really lucky with moving to California and actually finding some really good people out here. So my buddy Reza, who's actually, I'm wearing his shirt, that dude is a hard charging dude. He did all the guns for the SFA fundraiser we do every year. And they're these super sick custom jobs, but that guy just gets after it all the time. So he's got a really cool gun store, but then like if you hit him up, he'll be either surfing or on the boat fishing or spear fishing or going snowboarding or, just gets after it all the time. I met another dude. So my buddy Bryce, who's got a boxing gym, and I train Muay Thai, and I think I've told you this. I train Muay Thai with the guy, and he's like, the very first time we did it, he's like, "Hey man, let's try that. Let's try that cross again." And I think of myself as a decently tough guy,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Okay, let's move on. Let's try that elbow. Okay, give me that elbow. Oh, that's okay. That's pretty good. Give me the other one. All right, that's pretty good." He's like, "All right, hey dude. So if you get in a fight, don't try to punch. Just use your elbows." Um, but that dude's epic, man, and just gets after it nonstop. And if you ask him, he'll be like, "Well, I think everybody gets 8 hours to work, 8 hours to sleep, and 8 hours to be whoever they want to be." And so and that dude was a something crazy like 7-time American champ
Holy cow.
while having a full-time job because he never got like these big purses like UFC guys would get or something. And just so there's a bunch of great folks. The guy I work with on the mortgage industry, man, who used to come to Primal courses and was like, that dude just gets after it just nonstop. But he's really good at time management and he's really good at like really, really good at like using every single bit of knowledge he's learned in his career and applying it to stuff and always trying to get better. But dude, it's really, I think, just been trying to get out there and get after it and meet new people. And every time, like, every time I get an opportunity to do stuff or learn or work with new people is I just try to go all in and get embarrassed with how much I don't know about the new stuff.
Dude, so you bring up 3 good points, and my toxic trait is as soon as I say 3, I'm only going to remember 1 or 2. But one of them
No.
is you talked about getting out there and making friends, right? So I think one point being that in the military, you're kind of used to your friends being issued to you.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
in this environment, we have to put ourselves into different situations. Those situations involve some discomfort, which touches on 2. You also mentioned stepping into an arena where you don't know anything. And so you also go from a place of being fairly proficient at your craft to having to kind of like humble yourself to expose, yourself to new concepts, new ideas, new learning environments. So
Yeah.
that's 2. So since I remember 2, I'll probably forget 3, but I'm going to take a shot at it. And 3 was totally escaping me, so I'll remember it randomly at some point in the conversation. But yeah.
That's
Oh no,
horrible.
I do remember 3, and I think it's most important, which is why I saved it. Which is I love this 8 hours to do your work, 8 hours to sleep. Although more people need to sleep 8 hours, and 8 hours to be who you are. I also think that for me anyway, I don't want to speak for you, but in the military, work and who I was were kind of the same.
Yeah.
Even my second enlistment when I was a little bit older, like I was in my late 20s into 30, I had a little more separation. Like I at least lived off base. I had a little bit of a friend group that had no military ties at all. Some didn't even know I was in the military. And so I created a little bit of separation there. But still, for the most part, I hung out with folks from work. My job was my life. There wasn't a lot of separation versus you get in the civilian world. I think you think that that's what's normal and you quickly realize that it's not.
Yeah. And I think, like, I talked to, when I was, the first job I got when I got out was working with Mitch, and he's a hard charging dude, and he's like, hey, when you work as much as we worked, in the Army, he's like, you kind of almost don't have time, because normal people would be like, this dude is never around, never answers his phone, and he's always gone for like months at a time, so, and then in the business world, so many guys I meet are so all in or so buried in work that if they don't get to hang out with their friends at work, they don't have friends outside of work.
Yep.
And it
Yeah.
sucks. That sucks. So like, and I know people talk about it like the idea of the third place, where you have this other place you go that's not home and it's not work, and that you can kind of put some time and energy into, and you have friends from that. For my wife Mel, it's probably tennis, and her tennis buddies created a little tennis charity, and they would all go do all this, like, good work for the community, and really rewarding to have that. But like, I think the third place, at least in our old job, I mean, that just disappears. Like, that's not there. And for me, I'm so scatterbrained, I wouldn't know what it is for me now. It would probably be the SF association, but realistically, like, it could easily, you could say it's, my buddy's boxing gym, or it's, man, I don't know, like just the gym, just freaking going to the gym and getting buried in the app.
I
Like,
mean, yeah, you definitely have a collection of places. I feel like you're one of the, like you're always on the move. You're always going somewhere. You're always, like no 2 days seem the same in your life. That said, like you mentioned the SF Association, like chat a little bit about, I guess, like the work that you're doing there and sort of what pulled you into that, and not to be soft, but like, how do you feel about contributing in that?
Yeah, so that was not my idea. And that's why I say, like, I've got lucky, because most of my ideas are bad and have failed.
It could be a great idea and still fail.
And
I'll tell you that.
along the way, like, I'll meet some good people, and they'll be like, you should think about this. And like, so Earl was the guy that actually got me into the SFA. Like, when I was getting out of the Army, I was hitting everybody up, asking them what they were doing, asking them what they thought I should do, telling them where I was going. And he was like, hey, are you going to join the SFA? And I was like, no, I mean, I felt like that was just going to be a bunch of old dudes that just drink all the time. And he's like, it kind of is, but they're cool. And he's like, and it's honestly just a bunch of guys like us. It's just that they're the guys that did all these crazy old missions that we like learn about. And, you know, all of them have like, you know, got after it and grinded away at some other life when they got out. And so he's like, it's cool. I think you'd like it. And I was like, yeah, whatever, but I'll listen. And so I went and signed up. And the first guy I met was John Stryker Meyer. He was the president. And I was super humbled immediately. And then everybody else I met and continue to meet, I meet these guys who've lived really cool lives and just want to, you know, share whatever experience they have or whatever help they can give. So, but the other thing was I realized there was ways that I could kind of help too, especially because our organization is getting old and guys are not joining as fast as guys are dying. And it's kind of sad because a lot of these guys didn't tell their stories on a talk or on a recorded thing, or didn't even tell their family. And so the only guys that really know all the stuff these dudes did is kind of like the chapter or their SFA, you know, buddies or the buddies that were there. And it's wild. It really is like, so, but the cool thing that our chapter does, and we might be kind of unique, is we've got a bunch of guys who have done, you know, pretty good. And I mean, I know every chapter has a certain amount of that, but like, so we're always looking at doing stuff, raising money for our local community or putting money into the latest generation of Green Berets, or just saying an attaboy and running the card to buy them some beers when they're out here on TDY. And that stuff has been really rewarding. Like, so last year we raised, and that was Mel, my wife, helped out a ton with that. She really is like kind of the star of the show at that one. Like they were like, hey, don't make your wife mad because we like her more than you. But
we know who's actually getting shit done around here.
Oh yeah. And like who people are showing up to see. But yeah, so like that thing raised over 70,000 for our little chapter, right? To do stuff with, but 9,000 of that went to a thing called Sunburst Youth Academy, which is a nonprofit for at-risk youth. It's basically state and federally funded. And these, you know, these kids show up to this thing, they're failing in school. And in 5.5 months of the residential phase, those kids will increase their reading, writing, and math on average by about 3 grades.
Holy shit. That's incredible. Wow.
And then recidivism used to be a really big problem with that. So they would basically get removed from this environment, get put in a healthier environment, have discipline, have 3 square meals, and get the 8 hours of sleep. And then when they went back to their old environment, they would go right back to kind of where they were. And so they put in a post-residential phase with all these milestones and all this other planning and stuff they have to do. And it's like, it's over 18 months. And it is massive help. And I look at that and like, you know, those things serve the most vulnerable populations in our community and the people that are building the future. Because those kids are going to grow up. And if we can get those kids up 3 grade levels in 5.5 months, you know, you're showing that those kids can work. They can do it. And so it's like, what are they going to do with the rest of their life if you leapfrog them 3 more years ahead of where they were going to be? So that stuff has been really rewarding. We're going to try to go to Normandy this year. Like, I think for me personally, that's going to be really, really cool. So we're going to try to go to Normandy for D-Day. But dude, the part that's challenging about that has been trying to get young cats to show up. And so that's the part that I'm like, man, am I doing this right? Am I screwing up? But I don't have kids.
I mean, yeah, it definitely changes things when you have kids. I only have one, but it's certainly a time demand without a doubt. But you know, who knows too? I mean, I think there's a lot of hesitancy in people's willingness to like re-engage with that type of thing. I know even for me, I took way too long to kind of re-engage with the Ranger community, and I still haven't done a great job of it. In fact, ironically, I've probably done more in the SF world than in the Ranger world since service. But I'm trying to
It's
make a
wild.
conscious effort to like reconnect in that space and offer something. I don't know exactly what I have to give, but I'm sure we all have something of value that we can bring back to it. But I think a lot of those guys also just don't know yet maybe what they're missing. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't have an answer for how to expose them to it. But I feel like if you get them in the room, they'll probably start to figure it out pretty quick.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. And that was the part I showed up, didn't know what was going to be on offer and what was on the table. And then, yeah. And then I was just like humbled right away. And I was like, oh, okay. Earl was right. I'm an idiot. That's okay.
So do you feel like SFA is kind of where you place the majority of your kind of like purpose beyond, beyond family anyway?
I would say, yeah, it's a lot. I do put a lot into that. I'm trying to engage more with like the doing competition stuff, whether it's tactical games or Paul, one of our mutual friends, that's does a lot of competitive shooting now. So I might start doing some of that, and even like my wife's PT. I was hanging out with Mel just because I wanted to hang out with her during one of her sessions for her tennis elbow. Because she leaves it all out on the table every time, like
Heck yeah.
nothing, like it's all there. And so she hurts herself. And she's like, you guys should do like a high rocks competition. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun. Like, sure, let's do it. And if nothing else, it'll just be like another fitness thing that I can do, that I get to hang out with the wife, but I also get to like go compete at a thing. Cause I do find that competing, especially when it really sucks, it's kind of fun. Like it's kind of fun. And so like now when I go to the tactical games, I just go like full retard now. And we're going to see how that works. But like, cause before I'd be like, I don't want to get injured because I want to be able to finish. And now I'm like,
Yeah.
who cares?
Just go
Like
ham.
I'm not like actually competitive at it anyway. So let's just go have fun and just make every stage a beat down.
I mean, you're touching on, kind of the whole in part any given day concept, right? Of touch the flame, right? So finding something that makes you as positively uncomfortable
Yeah.
as being in the military does, right? Like, yeah, it really sucks and I love it
Yeah.
kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, you don't
Yeah.
want you want to be kind of in control now of when have to push yourself to that limit or whatever it is. But same token, I think that there's those of us still seeking that. And I think there's some who maybe don't even realize they're missing that, or they're seeking and finding a similar acute sensation in something that's probably not very good for them, right? As compared to a really tough physical mental challenge like tactical games that, by the way, is also part of a positive lifestyle, right? So you mentioned before we came on getting stuck in a negative feedback loop
Right.
as
Yeah.
opposed to something like, competing in tactical games. What does that do? That gets you start to be more focused in your training. I know for you, you're somebody very conscious of like your sleep. And so now you're going to pay more attention to your sleep, some of your stress management. Now you're in that positive feedback loop. Can you talk maybe a little bit about even just comparing the two and if you've ever been in one versus the other?
Yeah, I would say the first and like just unfortunately, like right, like the first year or two while I was out too, just adjusting to that change. And it was so many changes all at once. Because we also moved away when we got out, right? And so it was like new job, new place, new everything. And I worked out, I did a lot of stuff. I tried to stay positive, but I knew like I was just like, man, I hate being this is stupid. Even though personally, like personal life wise, I had all this great stuff. But it's kind of like what you're saying of like, well, I didn't have friends outside the military really, not in a meaningful way. I didn't have another place to go put in time and energy in a truly rewarding way. Like I went to the gym and I ran like, so when I got out, I was in better shape than I'm in now, right? I was running every morning before work and then I was working out every evening on the way home. And so I was in great shape and I put a lot of time into the gym, but I just didn't do anything with it. I didn't compete. I didn't go do anything challenging. I wish I would have known about the tactical games if it was around back then, because that would have probably been a great thing to get me into a community of people doing similar stuff, people that want to go out and, train or go do fun, healthy stuff versus just go out and drink. So eventually, like I said, I kind of lucked into meeting people that were doing stuff that I wanted to do more of instead of hanging out with people that did stuff that I didn't want any part of. And I think that finding that group, like if you can find a group of people doing that, you won, But if you can't, you maybe need to step away a little bit from the group of people that you're hanging out with. And that sucks. But it's just, to me, it's just true. Like if everybody I'm hanging out with's like, hey man, it's Friday night, let's go to the bar and get blitzed, I'm like, that doesn't sound fun to me, dude. Or sit around and watch football all day. Like, I'm like, that also doesn't sound as much fun to me as just going and playing frisbee golf or some BS. I don't even know, like it, and more constructive. And I feel like the other thing about that, like positive feedback, is the one thing contributes to the other thing. So if you're doing it right, if the third place is a bar, home life's going to suffer and work's going to suffer. If the third place is, some freaking nonprofit, or it's some really, cool gym that does a bunch of stuff and goes on hikes and goes on, snowboarding trips together and does all this other stuff, I promise that's going to feed into your family life and work life in a positive way too. And those are the, to me, those are the things that I finally have kind of got into. But man, yeah, if you're stuck in that negative, situation, and it's like, how do you break out of that is a challenge, right? It's a challenge. And, I would say for a lot of cats, it's like, just go find a place. Like, it doesn't even have to be something you're truly like into right now. It could be something that you're curious about. You don't know if you're going to be good at it or not. You don't even know if you're going to like it or not, but you're curious about it, Go do that. It's okay to get embarrassed. It's okay to screw up. You don't fail unless you quit. And, that's the thing for me. But the other part too is like, so you don't have local friends, right? Because you're in the Army and you moved away from that, but hit those dudes up. I hit the guys up from 1211 all the time. And, I'm going to go meet Buddha in Vegas.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So but we talk all the time. And if we're in the same place, we try to hang out, and keep track of each other's adventures and like egg each other on. Dude, Jay Steck is running around. I think he was running around Europe. I don't even know if he's somewhere else now. He's like all over the world, dude. Kicking it, taking the fam. And to hear about guys doing that stuff and get like pumped up about their success and like, that stuff's good stuff too. So you don't even have to have like a local thing, man. If you're using it right, if you use social media, maybe to keep up with people that you already have a strong connection with versus, just
keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah, or just scroll meaningless. I mean, dude, I actually love memes, and there's some really good, like, there's some really good Venezuelan memes out there right now, man.
Man, they're flying. It's wild.
It's wild.
The Diddy Madero ones are my favorite. I'm not gonna
Oh my
lie.
gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's out of control. I could not believe that happened.
Yeah. 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 But also in the same token, you start to also come across like guys you want to like who are suddenly political experts on Facebook. And I'm like, that's not the conversation I want to have. Like you said, like I want to see you being successful. I want to see, because again, part of that positive versus negative feedback loop is, what are you consuming on social? Like, are you out there eating up negativity and conspiracy theories, or are you out there cheering on your buddy, because he's tackling life and crushing it? And those are two totally different environments that you can expose yourself to. And there is a decision portion of that. Like, you do choose what to engage with to a point. And then that's like, right now, my shit's all mountain bike videos, right? And like, that's reinforced. Like, I see some stuff and I learn some things, and then I'm like, oh man, I suck, I got to get back out there.
Yeah.
What work did you do when you first got out?
So when I first got out, I got hired at a software company that did basically like lead engagement and management for multifamily, like commercial multifamily properties. I was really interested in that because I wanted to know how those big investors worked and how small investors became big investors and all this kind of stuff. So it was like a really good fit for me to try to go get a sales job at a company and industry I was really curious about. But the thing was, and there were some great people there, like dudes on the executive team there, all the sales guys were really great guys. I still talk to a bunch of them. And yeah, man, but like within, I think I lasted like 8 months because I was like, there was only a really like small kind of core group of guys that I really, really got along with and really wanted to emulate like their lives and lifestyle and stuff. And there was just like a lot of stuff I wasn't, and didn't feel like I was getting success. I was lucky to be there. But if anybody asked, they were lucky to have me. But no, but it was, but yeah. So after like 8 months, I kept having repeatedly friends hitting me up to go on contracts, dudes that were doing security consulting for like big conferences. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to move on. And so so I ended up leaving, but it was actually huge to get that job because when Mel and we moved down here with just a little bit of savings. Neither one of us had jobs. I was lucky.
No stress though, no stress at all.
Yeah, none. We just were like, it's going to work out.
I think that's part of it too, is we have this, like a few, like one, the idea of like the job and the identity are tough to separate. And then you get put in an environment where like, it's actually probably advantageous to separate them to some extent. I think too, we get in like a trap of like, oh, when I get out, what I need to do is like, I need to work and I need to go to school. And those are the two things on our mind and the two things that consume like our time and our energy. Yeah. And we forget about, like you mentioned, the third place, right? Like we forget about that because sometimes maybe we think the job will handle that.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, admittedly, like the job handled it a little bit when I was like coaching in soft still, because I'm still around people that like I love and fills my cup and all of that. And even with my time at the NSCA, like I traveled so much, my friends were everywhere. As soon as I then had a job, or as soon as really COVID happened and I didn't travel and I'm here and I'm just in my house, I'm like, I am a tourist in my own town. Like I haven't really got out. I don't really have friends here.
Yeah.
Right. Like this is a different, like now I'm having to actually engage in my community, which I've never done before. And like, I better figure out how to find some friends.
You know what? You're right. I didn't think about that because when I went from the software job to the other job, I was traveling, dude. I was hitting like 1 year, I think I hit like 40 flights.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you were probably up there too. And you're right. I would get lost, dude. If I didn't have Google Maps in my hometown, I would get lost. And I was like, this is stupid. I don't know where I am. Yeah.
It's different when you start actually calling a place home, right? Because it sounds like for you right now, like where you're at is home.
It is, man.
You know,
it is.
Going out there to visit you, it felt that way. I felt like I'm seeing you in your environment.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it took a minute to get there. Like, I think the one good thing about having more time in the place is you settle in and you build networks and the networks get stronger. We never got to do that, you know, even though like we stayed in the same places, we still weren't there most of the time. You know, it was like you're saying about being a tourist in your own town. And I think for me, outside of work, I'm going to still really try to always have another thing going because I feel like it also expands kind of my friend circle, but also like gives me a little bit of insulation. Like if I have a bad day at work, but I have a big success, you know, with the SFA, like we land a really cool guest speaker or, you know, we raise a bunch of money for a, community project. I'm insulated from that and vice versa. And I think it's just a good thing to do. But yeah, man. So what was like, what was it like being locked down in Colorado?
I mean, it was not, we were pretty open, right? Like,
yeah,
I went on some weekend trips with my buddy Paul. Like we went riding in different parts of the state.
that's
Definitely
fair.
all the outdoors was certainly open. I started actually training with Hunter. I got fit as hell.
Well, that's awesome.
I at some point during COVID anyway, like I stopped drinking during that time. I bought this house. Like there was a lot of opportunity there.
So you made some good moves, man.
And so I made some good moves. Really, the big thing that I realized was lacking at that time was like the social, because I was so used to the trips, and the trip was work, but it was work with friends, because the military coaching network is as awesome as the military network is. It's filled with great people, and so everywhere I went, I'm like, these are my best friends. I'm still on all these group texts with my best friends, and then as soon as I'm in my own town, I'm like, who here do I go see on like a Thursday?
Yeah.
Who do I call up to grab a ride or grab a beer or go for a run or whatever it is? And I kind of realized that didn't necessarily exist. And to be honest, I don't know that I even looked to fix it at the time. It's really more recent that I've started doing a better job of like being more intentional about having a local, network of friends.
No, which
So,
is, yeah.
dude, talk about, because I got to ask, and I want to make sure I don't run out of time, but talk about Primal Risk, because that's kind of how you and I reconnected a little bit.
Yeah.
Was around you setting up some of the workshops for Primal.
Yeah. So that was actually a company that I had stood up to do contracting and to do consulting. So like security consulting for corporate entities, and then the military contracts. And then when I would be home, I would just go shoot a bunch. And some of the local guys that I would meet randomly, either through my Thai boxing buddy or through, other dudes, would be like, hey man, if I buy your ammo and pay your range fees, will you take me shooting? And I'm like, absolutely, shoot for free. Yeah. And then dudes were like, dude, you should really, set something up and charge for this. And I was like, okay. So with my time at home, I started setting up, to train and to do stuff. And I had made a good buddy with Todd was a guy at Academy Southwest. He was one of their senior dudes, and he was like, hey, you can rent this place. And I was like, what? I can rent this? So as soon as I started renting that, and I saw, because it was purpose built to do, military style training for, the Navy and the Marines in that area, and for law enforcement agencies in that area. And so I saw that I could do the kind of training that no other ranges would let us do. And so, yeah, when I did that, I was like, okay, so I'm going to get and make these really realistic and hard stress shoots. I'll make, really challenging. And like, I don't mean like physically challenging or the shooting is hard, but like the CQB scenarios that had hard decision making. Because the decision making part is the part that I would say is often overlooked by people that don't fully understand tactical leadership and tactical situations, where you're going to have to make a really hard decision that you didn't see coming. It's a lot easier if somebody that's already been there, or somebody that's more conniving than you, creates it, for you. It's just a lot easier if you've seen it a couple times. And to not have that perspective of like, I'm going to go into this room and see what's in there, is really what every room, we kind of knew what was in there, but we had to see what was in there before we could make any decisions. Because 99% of the time, it's a bunch of civilians. Because guess who the families of the combatants are? They're non-combatants.
Yeah, exactly.
And so like, but a lot of people, I just think that, they, in imagination land, they didn't see that. So yeah, so with Primal, getting to do that stuff was really neat. We got Kate, the performance psych, out there. I would hook everybody up to a heart rate monitor, run them around and watch them lose their minds with their heart going 175 beats a minute. And when you're there, decision making gets tough, and that was a cool thing to be able to give that to people. That's how I met, actually. So I met my buddy Eric that I work with at Expert Home Loans. He came out there, and he was a G, dude. Like he made some calls, like some really cold calls. And I was like, did he just do that? That was amazing. No one has done that. And like to date, I think only one other guy, because I would set up these like shoot, no shoot targets, different places in the stress shoot. And then, but you'd get briefed the stuff, right? Like this is going to be here, you're going to do this is going to be here, you're going to do this. You need to keep your head and eyes open and react appropriately to whatever stimulus is there. And that's like this kind of catch all, like there's going to be some other stuff there. And I would really barely even say, I wouldn't foot stomp and be like, this is the true test, is the stuff that I'm not telling you about. I'd be like, hey man, and just remember, you got to keep your head and eyes open because, people are going to want to know why you did what you did and why you didn't do maybe stuff you didn't do. They're going to want to know. You might get asked about it. Okay. Anyway, let's start. And then Kate would be like, so tell me why you didn't shoot the 2 targets. What about those targets you didn't shoot made you choose not to shoot them? And they'd be like, I shot all the targets. And
they didn't even see him.
They wouldn't even see him.
Yeah.
One time Kate had to walk a guy to the target and point because she couldn't point from across the range. And that was awesome. Eric, well, guys who had took the class more than once, right? Or the advanced class, because I set up an advanced one. I would actually have unbriefed, but properly zoned and safe shoot targets. Those guys almost never saw or engaged him, just never did. Him, first time going around, saw it. And then he didn't just engage the right target, he prioritized the targets in the right order based on the level of threat and everything. And I was just I did not expect, I would expect any of the guys we worked with to struggle with some of those scenarios. And with that one, he just was came in, instantly made the right choice, executed it, and then just kept going. He wasn't even looking back being yeah, see what I did? So that was cool, man. Yeah, Primal was fun.
Sounds like he was a missed opportunity for an operator right there.
Yeah. Well, you never know. He's a little long on the tooth.
That's all right. Hey, we talk actually my last guest, we didn't talk about it on the podcast, but some of him and I have talked about is how we all do this stuff when we're young, but really we should get together when we're 70 something. We've already raised our kids. We don't really have as much to lose, but we're still fit. We can still get after them. Maybe we should have this old man contingent of former badassery.
Yeah, the gray beard unit.
Yes. When we do it, we should, what we'll do? We'll hire Primal and you'll get us spun up on scenario-based engagements, which by the way, we could go all day just about that conversation, but that's what's missing from pretty much everywhere, right? Law enforcement, that's a major shortcoming. Most military units, it's a major shortcoming. They don't train progressively. They don't get to the point where they're actually put into a situation that is enough to the real world that then when they get in the real world, like you said, stress is through the roof, decision-making goes out the window. Yeah. Even their vision, they're not even seeing targets, et cetera. Whenever we see these scenarios where Leo gets in trouble, I'm that guy didn't want to kill that person. He just was blinded by the scenario or fear.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's when I see those guys were let down by the institution. To do that kind of training is probably the hardest, most expensive thing to set up and run. It's really time consuming. From the perspective of money, I can see why they do it. Why they skip it. The problem is they don't realize the true price that they're paying by doing it. The true cost of ownership of omitting that kind of training and having I'm not going to say the true cost of an incomplete training program is a lot higher, I think, than any of those organizations want to admit. And for the people that make a mistake, the cost it's horrendous. So that's a tough deal, man. It really is. And, but yeah, so absolutely just a great, that was a great time. And so it's funny is I still run Prime, I still do it, but when Academy shut down, I can't run that kind of training anymore. So if anybody's out there in California that has a place like Academy Southwest and wants to rent it to me, hit me up.
Yeah.
But so I still run. I do flat range stuff and other stuff and certainly have other, things going. But as far as for civilians to just take a cool course until I can run one like that, that's all right. But, keep them busy.
So speaking of keeping busy, kind of what are you up to now from 2 perspectives? One, on the professional front, I guess like how you staying alive, right? And then two, what, you know, I guess we talked a little bit about tactical games, but kind of talk about your weekly rhythm with regard to like your fitness.
Yeah. So keeping busy wise, so that guy Eric I was talking about was like he saw me running amok and doing all this stuff and was like, why don't you come do loans with me? And the funny thing is, again, because I'm like hard headed, Mel, my wife, is in the mortgage industry. She's been doing it for 30 years. She's a beast. She's like #1 in the country for her company. She'd been trying to get me to do it forever, and I was like, no. And then Eric hit me up and he's like, dude, you should really come hang out with me, come work with me, do this, do loans with me. He's like, it's a good deal, and you'll get a lot of your freedom back to do the stuff you want to do, to spend time with your wife. You won't always be on the road. You won't always be doing all this other stuff. And I was like, all right. And so he's been training me to be like the loan guy. I mean, I've been doing this over a year now. So like the training part and then the license part of actually being a mortgage broker, I couldn't say no to getting trained with somebody that was in the top 50 out of like, I don't know, 35,000.
Jeez.
So the guy's, he's just peerless, in the top 50, and it's wild, but he's the only one that doesn't buy leads, and he's the only one that doesn't have a team, because
That's
he's so efficient and he knows. So the cool thing is that any of these people, if you did a deal with him, when you call him, he immediately, if he doesn't remember your thing, which he just has a good brain and he does, he's so organized, he can get it done immediately. Like he'll pull the stuff up. And so learning to work from somebody like that, like getting an apprentice under a master, has been really cool for me, really fulfilling and just interesting because, to get our jobs done, we had to do a lot of paperwork. We were really junior, really bad paper pushers. He is a grandmaster paper pusher, like he's like a world champion paper pusher. And so it's really cool because I think, to see somebody who just can get stuff done, that is, it's wild. And everybody that partners with him on the vendor side or on the real estate side sees that. And so now I'm starting to build my schedule and my rhythm kind of around that. But he's a super fit guy, and he programs like a really healthy lifestyle into his days. And so it's not a big deal for me to get up. And so like leading into kind of having that complementary stuff of the positive feedback loop. So he's like, oh yeah, you should be doing these workouts. Here's these Arnold emails I get, let's go train. We train with my buddy Bryce at the Thai boxing gym. Like, so we go to Rising Suns, talk about work, talk about fam, like beat downs once a week. And it's not even from like getting hit or something. It's because our fitness is so bad compared to Bryce, who's training with us. I'm telling you, dude, at the end of a session, of like a 1-hour session, he'll not be breathing hard. He'll still be wearing a hoodie because it's kind of cold. And I'll be covered in sweat and breathless and can't talk. And half the time I leave like my water bottle or, something, my phone or something at the gym because I'm so stupid. It's that stuff. And then, but yeah, so like, the planning and the stuff, and I've talked to you about it, but like getting enough cardio, getting the strength training there, staying healthy, because I have all these injuries we ignored for our whole career. And so it's like, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I do a spin class at the gym with this chick, Mickey, who's just kills me. And I can't match her output. I probably have 80 pounds on her and I can't match her output. Mel comes to a bunch of those, which is super cool and super rewarding. And then I do your programs. And then, so like sometimes I mix in that cardio to supplement because I can't run right now.
Yeah.
Into your program. So if I have a cycle day, I try to match up the day I do your like steady state day with that. And I was trying to surf like once a week. I'm not there. And that's just kind of like low intensity stuff. But so basically mornings are either your program or cycling or Thai boxing, or some days I do two, because I probably work out 8 times a week, somewhere around there. But trying to build in the rest too, or have like an active rest day where I just hike. And so that's kind of it though. So it's basically 3 times a week of the cycle, once a week of the Thai boxing, and then on a good week, I'll get all 4 of your sessions in. True sessions, not like where I sub out, the cycle or sub something out. But yeah, it's that, and then maybe some dry fires if I'm really killing it.
So
The-
I guess to wrap it up, I've sort of accidentally did this with JC last week, which was to just give him the microphone with some sort of like words of advice to close it out. I will narrow yours down a touch to give you a little bit of direction, but what would you kind of communicate as the value of keeping up your physicality with how it affects the other components of your life, and kind of in a way of like advising those folks that used to be hard chargers who are now far from it?
yeah. So one, as we're getting older, one of the big ones that I'll see is the health stuff, which I didn't even think of. And it's not because of your health right now, although that might be a thing, but your body at 70 is basically what you did when you were, 50 and 60. Your body at 80 is what you did at 60 and 70. So you should really just never hang it up and finding a way to keep that going. Because like I said, next month I'm going snowboarding with my buddy and I can barely keep up. The dude's still like 8 or 9% body fat. And it's not even about being natty. He just works out every day and he eats reasonably good. But I think that it also, you know, no matter what yesterday was like, if I start today out at the gym, I walk out of the gym and I feel good. And that has been one of the best things ever. Like when I was, for a little while, I was working in LA and it was a grind, dude. Like traffic, the whole LA thing is a grind. And, but I had a gym membership there and I'm getting up in the morning, going straight to the gym, no matter how tired I was before I went into work. Always, by the time I walked into work, felt great. I had a clear brain. I had way more patience for anything that was going to happen that day. And I probably acted, I would say, not just like more decisively, but more appropriately when stuff would happen, when stuff would come up as like as another thing. And then it's always good if somebody sees me and thinks I'm in shape. And then I'm like, well, of course
Sure.
you're still in shape. That just feels good. Right now, the shape might be a little more round than I want it to be, but it's coming. It's coming back. So,
Sculpting.
yeah, it's just taking way longer. That's the other thing too, is like keeping it going is so much easier than getting it back.
Yeah. It's a lot. I always say it's easier to stoke the flame than to reignite it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like object in motion stays in motion. Man, what you said with the gym reminds me of my buddy Adam hit me up and he reminded me of something I had said to him, which was, I'm never mad when I wake up sober, right? Like I'm always I'm like, oh, what a great decision to not drink. Same thing with the gym. Like when was the worst workout you've ever had? You still never regret it.
No,
right?
You're
Because,
always
like,
so pumped.
Yep. Like it does so much for the rest of the day, for the other days, and just like enhances every other component of life, man.
Yeah. And that's another one too. Like if the gym goal is big enough, you won't drink so that you can go crush your workout because you don't want to puke into a trash can in the morning at the gym. I'll still go, I'll still work out, but is it going to be nearly as good? No, that's terrible.
Yeah. Definitely nowhere is good. Well, dude, a couple things. One, I hope you do find some time to start incorporating surfing on a regular basis. You're one of the busiest people I know. I'm always impressed with how many things you have your hands in. You're nonstop. I think maybe you're finally realizing that you're nonstop and not even pretending that like things are going to open up at any point. So I think being honest about that also just helps you make better life decisions on a daily rhythm. Like you said, you still got the Primal Risk stuff going on. It's primalrisk.com, right?
Yep.
So there's someone to say, I will say this, like go there and check out the swag. I've got a hat on right now. I just picked up a hoodie yesterday. Like seasonally, you throw up some different designs and things that are just freaking sick, man. I will always obviously rep the brand.
Thank you.
That same breath, I appreciate one, you being number one on the Any Given Day training team. Two, that you're still on the team, still getting after it in conjunction with all this other fitness stuff. Like you're a beast and a half. Any parting words you have for folks listening in?
No, man. Other than, hey, thank you for all of that, because that thing motivates the shit out of me to get out and grind. I'm trying to get Eric and the expert home loans team onto it. I'm trying to make those cats into freaking any given day cats too, because they're all grinders. They're all getting after it. It'd just be more fun to have them on the same app talking shit about how bad, dude. My freaking legs hurt so bad from
Monday.
Dude, Monday it's brutal.
I'm wrecked. I even went light.
I did too. I thought I was like, oh, Nate's going to make a comment. I'm just going to tell him I'm trying to save my, because of the injuries. And I was like, I didn't go light enough.
Dude, I'm not judging anybody, because like it was
it's so bad.
I need to hit up there's a few diehards that have like never missed a day on the team. Admittedly, for me, like I biked a lot to close out the year, but I didn't train regularly enough, and like I paid for it with Monday, and like yesterday's run was the slowest 3 miles I've ran in my life, and it's because my legs felt like somebody hit me with a sledgehammer while I was sleeping.
Good job.
Hey, all that to say, everybody out there should join the Indicator Age.
Yeah. Dude,
like,
you're going to feel great. You're going to love it.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah.
No,
like,
it's
damn.
awesome. It's awesome, man.
Well, shoot, dude, my last word will just be, I really appreciate you being here, coming on, sharing a little bit of your story, especially the post-service stuff. I know we could talk all day about what you did in the uniform too. I feel like we short that, but I also just have to remind myself that we're kind of just focusing on life as a veteran and the challenges we're having and how we're getting after it and getting over all those hurdles, et cetera. So again, thank you for sharing.
Dude, thank you, bro.